Alright, welcome to our second video on solving quadratic equations using algebraic methods. This is 10.A.4.b. Here, we are going to be using something called the quadratic formula to solve these quadratic equations. We are going to be doing this instead of factoring as we did on the last video. And so here is the quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of b, that's that, plus or minus. You're actually going to have two answers like on the last ones, one with a plus, one with a minus. The square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you might be asking me, where did this a, b, and c come from? Let's go back and look at our form of a quadratic equation. To solve it, we have to have 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And that's where they all came from. So let's go and work this problem right here and see how this one works out. I have in this problem an a of 4, a b of 8, and a c of negative 77. So let's start plugging in. I have x equals the opposite of b, so the opposite of 8 is negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared. B is 8, 8 squared is 64, minus, here it says minus 4, so I take a 4, times a, which is 4. Let's make that a little better minus sign, times c, which is negative 77. So we'll extend this out through there. All divided by 2 times a, or in this case 2 times 4, which is 8. So now we want to simplify the square root, what's under the square root. So I'm going to do that using my calculator. It should be pretty simple. I'm going to go home and add a new document. Don't want to save, add a calculator. So I had 64 minus 4 times 4 times negative 77 equals 1296. Wow, so I have x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 1296 all over 8. Alright, let's find out what the square root of 1296 is. You hit the control squared to get the square root of 1296. I hit enter. Oh, it's 36. That's not too bad. So really what I have here, I'm going to move it up to here, is x equals negative 8 plus or minus 36 all over 8. So let's split it up now. I'm going to do negative 8 plus 36 all over 8, or negative 8 minus 36 all over 8. And so negative 8 plus 36 is positive 28 eighths, or negative 8 minus 36 is negative 44 eighths. Now we can simplify each of these a little bit. We can, what goes into both of these? 4. So 4 goes into 28 7 times, and here 2, so 7 halves. Or negative 44, we can divide both of those by 4 also. Negative 11 halves. So these are my two answers for this quadratic equation. And the quadratic formula is how I found it. Now I could have done this with the factoring as well. I don't really like factoring that. That's not as easy to do, but it's doable. But the quadratic formula makes this a good bit simpler. Now let's look at one where you have to have the quadratic formula to get an exact answer. Well, at least you can't do it using factoring. There are other ways to do it. Again, it is already set equal to 0, which is what we need. And now we have an a of 4, a b of 8, and a c of negative 15. Let's write out our quadratic formula. x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now let's plug in. X equals the opposite of b, so that's negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 8 squared is 64, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 15, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 4, which is 8. Obviously, you can see this problem is very similar to the one we just worked. Okay, so now let's figure out what that is under the square root. We have, way back here, 64 minus 4 times 4 times negative 15, which is 304. So we go back here and we have x equals the opposite of b, the negative 8, plus or minus the square root of 304 over 8. Let's see if 304 has a square root, or at least a whole number one. Hit Control square root, 304. Nope, we don't like that. And we don't want the decimal. We're going to actually keep it as root 304, which means we're finished. This is the final version of this because we don't want to do anything to simplify that down to the 17 point whatever. Now in Algebra 2, you're going to look at ways to simplify a radical, is what you call this, to make that 304 look a little simpler, but we're not going to worry about that yet. So that's all you need to be able to do to solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. If you didn't quite get how to do it, watch this video again and make sure you get that all cleared up.